Hello, beautiful women. Welcome to She Talks, a space for you to come home to your inner wisdom, which I call your she. I'm Sara Avant Stover, a yoga and meditation teacher, best-selling author, and founder of The Way of the Happy Woman. And I'm really honored to welcome you to a new season on our podcast called The Heartbreak Diaries. Now, heartbreak is a harsh but incredibly powerful spiritual teacher. It pulls the rug out from underneath us and asks us to find our footing amidst the free fall. It shatters us and demands we piece ourselves back together, more whole and holy than ever before. As I've weathered a massive series of heartbreaks over the past year and a half, I've realized that one of the most painful pieces of grief is often the isolation it brings. So I'm on a mission to help shift this by creating a safe space where women can share not only the highs of our lives, but more importantly, the lows. To help us find a sense of community in our struggles and to give voice to the losses that we often grieve in silence, I've created this special interview series called The Heartbreak Diaries. Over the next couple weeks, I'll share 4 intimate interviews with women who've weathered intense heartbreak and come out the other side even stronger. From growing older to the sudden death of a beloved, from baby loss to divorce and the loss of a parent, these brave women will open up about some of the toughest chapters of their lives and exactly what they did to be transformed by them on every level. Beyond being a safe space to speak up and share about our losses, this series has another purpose. It honors the opening of a new course that I've been working on for the past year called Healing from Heartbreak, Transformed Through the Wild Wisdom of Grief. This gentle, guided 4-week heroine's journey is the exact course that I wish I'd had during my own heartbreaks. It gathers all the resources, all the tools that I've had to piece together on my own, and I'm offering it to you in one place to help us heal and grow into more human and honest versions of ourselves, with the community support and tools we need to make it through our darkest days. As I've learned to befriend rather than fear my grief over these past couple of years, I've discovered that weathering it well requires a truly compassionate and integrative approach. So we start on June 7th, and there's a special gift for any woman who joins us early before May 30th. And you can learn more at thewayofthehappywoman.com/healing-from-heartbreak. So grab your tissues, get comfy, and enjoy this intimate interview as part of our Heartbreak Diaries. Hello, my dears. It is time for our last interview in this series. I feel sad that it's coming to a close. I feel a little bit of grief that is coming to a close. I feel like there's so many more stories to be shared. But at the same time, all good things must come to an end. And yes, this series is ending as the course on how to work through all these types of losses, healing from heartbreak, as that is about to start and to be born through me for the first time. And we're starting next Wednesday, June 7th, and running for 4 weeks. I have been formulating this program for the past year as I've documented my own struggles, journeys, learnings through heartbreak, through separation and betrayal, and recently through losing a child. And I'm curious I'm curious what's going to come out. I have so much to share, and I just feel like a fire hydrant waiting to be plugged into to share it. And Lisa Brown, whom we're meeting with today, is really a beautiful segue from this podcast series into the course. Healing from Heartbreak. Lisa is a longtime member of our The Way of the Happy Woman global community. We first met some years ago during a retreat that I was leading in Thailand called the She Retreat. Many of you know that I lived in Thailand for a decade and often go back to teach. I actually haven't been back in a few years, and my next retreat is scheduled there for February of 2018 for any of you who want to come gather together in southern Thailand. And then Lisa went on to become a member of our She School, our 9-month spiritual practice community, and to be one of my one-on-one clients. We worked together very intimately over several months during a pivotal time in her life. And that's why I reached out to her to see if she'd be willing to share. She went through a divorce with 2 children after, I think it was 21 years of marriage. I might be off by a year or 2 there. And she was also going through menopause at the time. And then when I reached out to Lisa via email to see if she would be willing to be interviewed, she shared that she was in hospice with her mother, who was going to be dying at any moment. And we actually recorded this interview about a week after her mother passed. So I get chills as I share that. It's a powerful conversation, and now I'm starting to get a little bit teary about it, but I'm so blown away by the journey that Lisa took on and the transformation that I've seen in her from the time that I met her in Thailand until this interview, in really stepping into her spiritual assignment, and in that really stepping into the woman that she is, the powerful, tender, wise woman that she is. So you're going to hear it. You're going to hear it in her voice. And this is what heartbreak does to us when we say yes to it. When we say yes to it, when we work with it skillfully, and when we don't turn away. When we don't turn away. So you'll hear it in Lisa's voice. And we'll all find our way into that place that Lisa's in, of losing a loved one, of needing to have an old version of ourselves die so a new version can be reborn. So listen in and pass this interview along to women who need it. Pass this series on to women who need it. And for anyone who wants to go deeper, for anyone who wants to say yes to this journey, I really look forward to guiding you deeper in the Healing from Heartbreak course that starts on Wednesday. All right. Much love to you. Enjoy this conversation.
All right, Lisa, welcome.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
And we were just talking before we started to go live to record, and I was just sharing, I was speaking to the audience now, I was just sharing with Lisa that I'm just really honored that she is taking time to be with us today, considering that her mother just passed away pretty unexpectedly. Was it last week?
Or the week
before last? 2 weeks ago.
I've returned home about 4 days ago after being with my father. Yeah, after.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So what a journey you're on, and what bravery and service to show up amidst all of that and to share your experiences. And I know you were also sharing that as you were preparing for the interview, it was therapeutic for you just to start to really look at, how you're framing all this, how you're working with it, not only this loss, but multiple losses you've been through the past couple of years, which we'll get into.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Lisa, just to help you really kind of land here in this space, as you know, you've been a member of our community, whether that's the She School or our She Retreats, or even one of my mentoring clients in the past. We always start with a personal check-in.
Mm-hmm.
So can you share with us just where you are joining us from today and how you're doing at the levels of body, heart, and mind.
Sure. So I am here in Raleigh, North Carolina. It's a very hot day, about 90 degrees, so it's sort of the promise of summer to come. In terms of body, when I check in, I feel like I'm kind of rejuvenating. It was a stressful month, being with my mother who just lost a battle with cancer, and so I've returned home, and in body, I've just returned to my self-care practices, catching up on my sleep and eating well, and all those things that kind of tend to my body. So it's starting to rejuvenate. Not 100%. I'm depleted, but I'm feeling on the upswing. And in my heart, obviously, I feel my heart feels open, but very tender, very, very vulnerable. I feel extra emotionally sensitive right now, and just feeling tender-hearted, as would be expected. And then, in terms of my mind, I think that was the third one you asked me. My mind feels pretty clear. I feel a little overburdened by a big long list of to-dos after being sort of abandoning my normal life to be with my family the past couple of weeks. But other than that, my mind is good. Not too racing, fairly centered, all things considered.
And Lisa, I know that as you're returning home and just getting settled in, one of the things that you and I were talking about in our emails to schedule this interview was that you were kind of saying, like, I don't really know where to start, what to talk about, because there's been a lot of losses over the past couple of years. And I know that this happens for all of us at certain times in our lives. Like, we can be going along for a while, there's a certain level of stability, and then all of a sudden there's one kind of heartbreak or loss, and then there might be, one or two more that follow after that. That has certainly been the case for me the past couple of years as well. And I know back when you and I were working together one-on-one, one of the things that we were working with was your divorce. And can you tell us more about that particular loss?
Sure. And when I sort of launch into some of the background and context, please stop me if I go on too long.
Sure.
So that we can get to, the healing from it. But I'll just start by saying that I guess some context is probably helpful. It was I think it was January 2015 when my husband of 21 years, who'd been married a long time, he sat me down and he asked for a separation. And it was not a surprise that we had some sort of deep-seated ongoing issues in our relationship, but realizing just how really unhappy and desperate he had become and the fact that he really wanted a physical separation, that was a big surprise to me. So I really felt a little bit sideswiped, like there was this feeling of having the rug pulled out from under me. And I think that's the thing about having a primary relationship fail, is that it really rocks your world. I mean, it affected all aspects of my life, and at kind of at every level, sort of emotionally and socially, and in terms of concerns about the family unit and the children. And I don't know if I mentioned finances, like everything was suddenly, it's just like you said, my life was cruising along on autopilot for a long time, many years, and then suddenly, bam, like starting in 2015, there's just been a lot of rumbling at a very foundational level. And I think that, to be honest, also to give more context, his timing really, really sucked in that just before his request, I had invested a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of money and passion into building my coaching practice. And I was really poised to have it take off. And suddenly all the wind was really knocked out of that sail. And I feel like I really cut way back, sort of abandoned my visions and plans there, stopped my one-on-one coaching clients because I felt I really needed energy just to for myself and managing my own sort of life crisis. And that was a loss in and of itself because here was this big creative project that I love that really died before it was able to bear fruit. And so that was going on. And at the same time, we were just about to launch my eldest son. He was 19, off to college, our first child leaving the nest. And he's at college in California, so it's all the way across the country. So all of that happened at the same time. So that was a lot. And for about 6 months, it was my hope that, I encouraged my husband, well, let's lean in. Let me really understand. I hear you. Let's work together. Let's get some more therapy. I really wanted to postpone or avoid the physical separation. But in the end, he just really felt strongly that's what he needed. I needed to respect that. And so I also want to share that I follow the teachings of the Baha'i faith. And in my spiritual tradition, when a couple is having difficulties, they enter into a period called a year of waiting or a year of patience. And so we shared with our spiritual community our situation and officially began our year of patience in August of 2015. So in the same month, I went from being a busy family of 4 to having my husband move out and my eldest son go to college. And so it was down to me and my other son, who I think was 16 at the time, in this big house. And it was just an abrupt change. And I think that that's when we started this year of patience, that my inner work, my real transformation really, really began. It might have been, it's all a little bit of a blur, but that might have been when we started one-on-one coaching or went on the retreat to Thailand. I can't quite remember, but the purpose of the year of waiting is to really dig deep, to consult our spiritual, writings, to do a lot of soul searching, make every effort to try to reconcile our differences and save our marriage. And I think both my husband and I really committed to that process. In the end, we did make the decision to divorce, but with the intention to still stay in relationship with one another, to be, there's still warmth, to be kind to one another, to be respectful and continue to co-parent our kids and to really try to continue with a friendship. So that's kind of the overall, in a nutshell, kind of journey. And maybe I'll leave it at that for now and see what else you want to ask.
Yeah, thank you. And I want to point out that, you were mentioning needing to kind of put a halt on your building your own career and needing to invest so much energy in handling this crisis and your own inner work. And just to point out for all of us that usually there's a secondary loss and then, a primary loss. And then oftentimes there's like secondary and tertiary losses that come from that. I know that I've experienced that too. Like you have the primary loss of the divorce, and then you can have, just with the amount of energy that goes into handling that, you can have financial loss, you can have career loss, you can have friendship losses, and also that the process of grief and of dismantling and then rebuilding a life is exhausting. It takes a lot from us.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And it really becomes like a full-time job that is really not honored in the world that we live in. Where we're expected to, take a couple of weeks and then just resume as if everything is as it was. But like you said, with the loss of such a long-term marriage, and I experienced that even just, I wasn't married and my relationship was shorter, but you do need to rebuild everything.
Yeah. Yep.
And and you and your husband, you had 2 children.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a whole other dimension.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They were older. I think that there were many choice points in our in 21 years together where the question of whether we would remain married or not, that there was a choice point. And I think that all along the way, our desire, our heart's desire to keep our marriage intact, to keep our family union intact was a big factor. In other words, the needs of the children and the effect it would have on the children was a big factor in us, continuing to stay together, for sure. And so it was, and it was difficult. It was difficult to make that step of sort of crossing that line. It kind of felt like a crossing over a line to me of wow, how is this going to affect the children?
Right. How have you handled it with your children, and how are your children handling it now?
Well, I think in our case, the children were older. One was really about to launch out into his own, young adult life, and the other one was 16. And how we handled it is once we made the decision to begin our year of patience, we sat the boys down and we reminded them of, we had this spiritual teaching, this spiritual principle, reminded them of that, and told them that we were going to enter into a year of patience. And the sincere intention there is that we really had not made a decision to divorce. It was really a time of soul searching and effort. And so that's how it was presented to them, so I think it kind of helped them to just adjust to the new reality. It wasn't like we sat down and said, okay, your dad and I have decided to divorce. It was, one step back from that. It was, we're having these challenges and difficulties, and we're going to enter into this really sacred time. And they understood that, and they could adjust to that first step, we were all adjusting. And my husband got an apartment quite near our home, and we agreed that my younger son, who was not going off to college, would remain in, our main home. That there wasn't a necessity at his age and given our unique circumstances for him to go back and forth between 2 homes. And so I think that worked well for us. And my older son, he was very matter of fact. He said, I just want you both to be happy. And he said, the reality is that I'm about to go off to college, and this is really going to affect, my younger brother more than me. And I thought that was pretty, pretty practical and straightforward of him. And the younger one, I think it's an ongoing thing. I think that it will continue to unfold and be integrated and have meaning made out of it over time. So it's a process. It's an ongoing process. We try to keep lines of communication open, but in our particular case, with the personality of our boys, they don't often talk about it or bring it up. And I'm just being respectful of that at the moment. Yeah, and my husband and I are still very much, in connection, and it's not tremendously adversarial. And I think that our commitment to that has helped a lot.
Mm.
Yeah.
And Lisa, I know that in the midst of all of this, you were also going through a larger personal transition into menopause and just a new season of life.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, I just think that all of the things combined, and there are other things that have happened over the course of these 2 years. We don't even have time for, but the whole lump sum of it all is that I've really had the sense that I've been going through an initiation process. It's felt that sort of big and epic, and can you remind me of the question again, so I'm sure to stay sort of focused?
Yeah, it's about menopause, the initiation of menopause.
Yeah, I think that it is all created like the blessing of it all, the gift of it all, the opportunity of it all, is that with my marriage, that foundation sort of crumbling beneath my feet, and the beginnings of empty nesting, and my role as mother sort of dramatically shifting, and then the menopause where I no longer, for so many decades, as women, we get used to and take for granted there's a rhythm that is just an undercurrent of our life, and we kind of know where we are in our cycle, and it's just an anchor. And I feel like that now, with starting to miss periods and not quite know where I am in my cycle, and just all the changes there, it's really created a sense of unmooring, just the foundation's gone, which is kind of scary. But I have to say also, it's also kind of exciting. There's possibility there. There's old structures and habits. Everything is up for reevaluation. It's up for questioning. It's up for redoing. And there's just a tremendous opportunity for creativity, I think. And for me, with everything happening all at the same time, it's been such a huge, clear sort of message from the universe, from God, from my inner she, like, okay, not business as usual, pay attention, there's transformation happening within me, that it's not a concept now. I've always been interested in personal growth. I've always been interested in learning and whatnot, but I really have been having a lived, embodied experience of what a transformational journey or a transformational process looks and feels like. So, it's difficult, and it's so rich. It's so rich. So it sounds paradoxical, and I think it is.
It's very paradoxical, and I love hearing. Yeah, I love hearing just the enthusiasm in your voice amidst so much heartbreak, and that's something that I teach in this course, Healing from Heartbreak, is that grief is mandatory, but transformation is optional. Like that part is the choice, and you've just been saying yes to the transformation. Yeah. So I want to get into that transformation in a moment, but first, let's talk about. So then we have the third major loss, which is the loss of your mom. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit about what that process has been like for you so far? I know, like, in the months of her diagnosis, and then these past couple of weeks as well.
Yeah, I will give you the beginnings of it, because it's so recent, and I'm still in it, but I think it's worthwhile to reflect. Wow, I don't know. Let's see, which aspect of it. Yeah, I was telling you before we started the recording that it was sudden, in that my mom was not feeling well, had a cough, and went in for kind of a routine, thinking she had an upper respiratory infection, and it ended up being small cell lung cancer, which is a very aggressive, basically non-treatable form of cancer that had spread throughout her body. And so it was just 4 weeks from the day she was diagnosed to the day of her death. And so
4 months?
1 month. Yeah.
1 month.
1 month.
Wow. I thought you said 4 months when we were talking.
No, 4 weeks,
wow.
I said.
Okay.
Or maybe I said 4 months, but I meant 4 weeks. It was 4 weeks.
You meant 4 weeks. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, 6 weeks ago, she was with my father in Chicago at the Broadway musical Hamilton, and then 2 weeks later, she, got this diagnosis, and wow, it went downhill so quickly. So,
wow, I didn't realize it was that fast. I mean, 4 months would have been fast, but 4 weeks is
4 weeks. So we're all a little bit reeling,
Yeah.
And I think that the thing that is most touching to me, and I don't, tell me if we don't need to go in this direction, but I spent 3 days with my mother in hospice, and I'd never been in a hospice. I had never been quite that close to death, particularly of a loved one, someone so close to me. And I was so, of course, there's, again, it's this paradox of in the midst of this pain and heartbreak and loss, the most exquisite examples of care. Oh, this is bringing up my emotions. Of compassion, of tenderness, of kindness, of mercy. It really blew me away, and I think part of, as I talked about, sort of feeling like I've been through an initiation, it's being initiated into these powerful energies that I think go hand in hand of death and rebirth. They go hand in hand, and it was just profound. I think that it'll take me a while longer here to unpack all of that, and I just know that there was something heartbreaking and also very beautiful about what we've just experienced, and as a family, and so maybe I'll leave it at that. Or
I think that's really beautifully said, Lisa. Because I went to a yoga class this morning, and the teacher, his mother died very suddenly 2 weeks ago, and he was sharing about his experience and saying how one of the things he's really learned these past 2 weeks is how sorrow and joy are really the same thing. And I have felt that as well during different forms of my grieving process, is when we get so close to a death, like we're also so close to all the beauty of the human heart and of human life. And they're just all present right there when we get to the real surface of what this is all about. And a lot of the time, when we're not faced with life and death, we're just not as intimate. We're not intimate with it. We're not aware. We're focusing on other things. And that's a really beautiful opportunity in these tremendously harrowing times that we all find ourselves in.
And I'd like to add another insight that I had as well on that, is that in that hospice setting and so close to the transfer, like the ultimate transformation, right? Just these heart qualities that I mentioned, of compassion, of tenderness, of dignity, and on. I felt very close to the feminine. I think these are qualities that that we as women are strong in, and it's our unique contribution in many ways to bring more of to the world. And I just had a sense of the power of these heartfelt, feminine qualities. And my mother was a very kind, very gentle, very sweet woman. And people have told me, oh, you're just like your mother. You're so kind. You're so sweet. And sometimes I think, oh God, I want to, just kind of tired of just being sweet. You know what I mean? But I've gained an appreciation for the power and the strength of these qualities. They are not weak. They are powerful beyond measure, So I'm going to make a commitment to my mom, to no longer to really uphold those things with a sense of their value and importance, and no longer just be proud of them and bring them forth. Does that make sense?
Completely. Yeah, it's very well said.
Yeah.
So, Lisa, within these many losses over the past couple of years and your deep commitment to personal growth and your own transformation, what do you feel are like the tools? My dog is scratching herself. I don't know if you could hear that.
No.
You couldn't hear that?
I could not.
Yeah, her tags are shaking. What are the tools, people, and practices that have most helped you with grieving these losses?
Okay, this is such a good question, and I think that of course everyone's experience is different, right? And I think it's up to each woman to figure out what brings the most comfort, the most healing, has the best effect. And I just feel so appreciative that these days it just seems like there is a plethora of resources, helpful tools and practices and mentors and coaches and modalities. And I think it's all fantastic and very useful. And at the same time, I have to say that for me during this period of time, my experience, this initiation, if you want to call it that, has had the dramatic effect of helping me do something that I needed to do a long, long time ago. And that is really to sort of unplug from sort of authorities outside of myself. And my number one tool has really been connecting to my inner wisdom, my inner she, doing what it is that you teach us to do as women. That has been the number one tool. I've been trying to turn inward, be quiet, become still. I think that one of the things I did well was to recognize, wow, it's not business as usual, and to respect, to really give this transition, all of these things happening to me, their proper respect, and to really actively and consciously create breathing space for something to happen that my rational mind could not and still cannot understand. I think that it's an alchemical, mysterious process that is not linear, it's not rational, and I just somehow knew that and have really tried to make space for it. Listening to my she and trying to act on her guidance. And sometimes it doesn't make sense, and sometimes it makes complete sense. I think that's the big one.
Yeah.
I think related to listening to my she has been just, I guess it's kind of a stance that I've taken, or orientation, kind of a mindset stuff. I gave it meaning. I consciously gave it meaning. So when I started this year of patience, I very clearly got the image of the chrysalis, the caterpillar going into the chrysalis of transformation. And that year has been in my mind. I was in my chrysalis, and I gave it meaning, and I gave it sort of metaphor and archetype, and it worked with the archetypes. And that's been very helpful. I think that another tool has been to really choose empowerment, to make a choice. And it was just a choice to believe that, okay, all of this is happening. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't seem to be good for, good in quotes, but there's just a sense that I know the universe has my back. I know that God, I know that this is all in service to mine and everybody else's evolution and growth. And and from that, I think comes a decision to take responsibility, like kind of radical responsibility, to be in learning mode, to be curious, to find ways that, particularly, in my relationship with my husband, the marriage, how did I contribute to it? What unconscious beliefs were running that had us co-create this and really own my part of it for the sake of my own freedom, right? My own growth and evolution. So I think that's kind of a basic orientation that, I haven't always, stayed in that place of positivity, but
of course
general,
not. Yeah.
But I'm telling you, when I did get back into that space, it was very helpful, it was very helpful. And then in terms of people, yep.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, in terms of this past years is really where I've really grown. A place I've really grown is in my ability to really connect and be in community with others. And I got connected to supportive people and communities. I was in both an online women's circle and a local women's circle, and that has been invaluable. And I also, again, in reference to my divorce, I pulled around some other, I created a team for myself. I got some financial advice, some legal advice, and just made sure that I was fully resourced. And maybe for the first time ever in my life, just really realized, wow, I can't do this on my own. I need to bring on board, I need to not be in the giving mode, but I need to really be in the receiving mode. Which was a huge, powerful shift that I made, on behalf of my own self. And I think finally, moving my body, because wow, emotions come up, and unless you have a way to just help yourself process them and move them, they definitely can get stuck. So moving my body, getting coached around core belief work, like to really use this all as an opportunity to really get to some limiting core beliefs and get insight around them, be able to let them go. I think there's probably more, but those are the ones that are coming up in the moment. And again, I go back to, it's all been guided by an inner wisdom that knew what I needed and what would bring about wholeness and healing. And that's just a huge lesson and gift in of itself, that I really do have all that I need within myself, I didn't really believe it before.
Yeah.
But this experience has really proven it in action,
Yeah. Yeah, it's like these really trying times teach us what we're made of, and teach us our capacity, and teach us what strength we have. And I believe just as women, just as our bodies and souls know how to birth, they also know how to grieve. And they do know how to transform.
Yeah.
But like you said, when you're willing to listen and to trust and just to take that risk to go through that alchemical process of letting go of rationality and a linear path from point A to point B and just go into the unknown.
Yeah. And receptivity, just listening, in this moment what's needed, and then in this moment what's needed, and in this moment, and it really unfolds very beautifully and with such wisdom and efficacy, it really, I think that there is an inherent impulse to be whole, and and so just connecting to that has been very powerful for me, to really know that it's there.
And Lisa, the next question was about how you feel like you've become a better, stronger woman as a result of these losses, but I can already hear that. I'm sure all the others listening can as well. It's just shining through you. And it's, you've, from the first time we met at that retreat in Thailand, however many years ago, I can't remember how many, maybe 3 years ago?
I can't remember either.
Yeah. But you had a spark. It's like a feistiness of for life, to really live life and to really transform and to be honest with yourself. And it's so beautiful to see how much you've grown and deepened over these years through these life experiences and through you really working with these life experiences.
Yeah,
I feel just really proud of you.
Aw, and I feel very grateful. And I'm remembering now that you mentioned Thailand, there was a particular meditation practice that you introduced us to that was more sort of masculine in approach, which had to do with just sitting and facing, like looking squarely at what is, like truth telling. And that has so served me, because when your life when you have a major breakdown in your life, one of the ways I have grown stronger is I've just really started to kind of enforce to let go of any attachment to a perfectionism, and I think just being able to, when things fall apart and there's kind of a shattering, there is a sense of freedom and nothing to lose, and breaking out of any sort of habitual sort of denial mechanisms or not wanting to look at certain aspects of my life. And it was just like, okay, I'm sitting here and with looking squarely face on at my life. And it's been I think it's brought on board, I love that I do have my mother's sweetness and kindness and compassion and gentleness. And also this has brought on a fierceness that I also need, like a fierceness and a courage and a power that I think brings in the other heart qualities. There's the heart, I think, has sort of the yin and yang about it itself. And I think that I've got, definitely this experience has just deepened the capacity of my heart. And, that means I'm moving through the world now, with a deeper, wider center and just the ability to hold for myself and others bigger feelings and more space, which really helps me be of service to people in a much more powerful way. And that's exciting to me. And that's, it's sort of the fruits of the trials and tribulations.
Yes, and I'm struck as I'm hearing you speak. That's really what you're saying. Like, really makes the difference between using our losses to grow and having our losses kind of just make us wither. Because some people never ever recover from their losses and can just spiral into addiction, depression that never lifts, or, long-term grief that never lifts. And I think that the more that we can, like you said, face what is without flinching.
Yeah.
And choose to transform through our losses, then it's really amazing who we become as a result of that. And like you said, the strength that we uncover, the compassion that we uncover, just the new possibilities for our lives, the empowerment that we discover is unparalleled.
It is unparalleled. I have to say, as you're speaking, I'm getting chills, because I have to say that as you framed it that way, I remember there was a choice point. Like, I had that sense in the moment that, wow, this is a choice point. This is either, as you said, either going to be a catalyst for a quantum leap in my, growth, my evolution, or the beginning of a withering process that I might not recover from. I was at that choice point for sure. And I, I made a choice. And I think, that choice, like mindfully, with intention, with consciousness, and that choice, I think, is the, I don't know, that's part of the alchemical process, right? Like, that's the catalyst to enable certain energies then to be brought on board and to start orienting around an empowered future. And as you're mentioning, I just think that that's a critical choice to be made, and that we have that choice. And that also it really assisted me to make that choice, not in a vacuum, but being inspired by other women, by others who were making that choice. Truly,
Yeah, because we don't have a choice when the rug is pulled out from underneath us, but we do have a choice with what we do with that.
Exactly.
So, Lisa, what do you most want women to know who are grieving and healing a loss or many losses?
Oh, I think when you ask that question, I go immediately to my heart. And there's just a feeling of just to know that you can lean into the hurt, to the heartbreak, to the pain, to encourage them to slow down, to lean in, to just ride the wave. And inside the pain, there's so much richness, and there's so much possibility, and to trust themselves, to trust others who they choose to bring into their intimate circle, and to just really know that there will be a rebirth, that it's just in the it's the promise of life to all of us, that any breakdown, death is followed by a rebirth. And just to give women, the overarching energy is one of hope and gratitude. And it's an intangible. I can hardly put it in words, but that they are loved beyond measure, and so that all is well in the big picture.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Lisa, especially amidst all that you're just continuing to face in your life. And I just appreciate you as a woman and appreciate the fruits that you shared with us of your journey through grief and loss. It's incredibly inspiring.
It's my privilege. It's my honor, and helps with my own healing as well. So it's just a huge circle of generative, life-giving wonderfulness.
As Lisa's story illustrates for us, heartbreak is mandatory, but transformation is a choice. So if you are ready for more support and more community as you reclaim lost parts of yourself and navigate your grieving process from the compass of your inner guidance, come on and join us for Healing from Heartbreak, Transform Through the Wild Wisdom of Grief. Again, this starts in a few days, and you can learn more and join us at thewayofthehappywoman.com/healing-from-heartbreak. So I've poured everything I have into this course, from what I've learned through the immense challenges that I've faced over my life, but most especially the past couple of years, and how to use our heartbreak as an opportunity for alchemy, to really die to old versions of ourselves, old versions of our lives, and be reborn anew. So any form of heartbreak is welcome. And whether that was recent or whether it was a long time ago, it's welcome. If you work with women, we all go through heartbreak, and you want more tools for working with them, you're welcome. All right. And this episode also marks the very end of our Heartbreak Diaries interview series. If you've enjoyed it, please do share it with the women in your life who need it. And please do leave us a review on iTunes. Reviews help so much. They help to raise the visibility for this podcast so more women can find it. And there are so few podcasts by women that are highlighted on iTunes. And I'd really love to get more female voices just available and out there for more people to hear. So it would help so much if you share this, and also if you write us a review. And our next podcast series will be back in a few months. Until then, I'm sending you my heartfelt support, and I thank you deeply for being part of our sisterhood.